Hello everybody, this is Lisa Black. I'm a Community Connection Specialist with Nelson Elder Care Law. This is one of my favorite things to do is to meet great people and great resources within the community. So today we have Irene Barton with Cobb Collaborative. Try to say that 5 times.
Yes.
And we are so pleased to have Irene with us to learn more about kind of what Cobb Collaborative offers. And we were talking a little bit beforehand, and we found out that we have in common with Nelson Elder Care Law and Cobb Collaborative, we both help families. So if you could, I'm really curious, tell us a little more about how you help families.
Well, thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much for having us. So we are part of the Georgia Family Connection Partnership, which is a statewide ecosystem that is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. And the overall purpose is to improve outcomes for children and families. How we do that in Cobb is by convening stakeholders. This sounds all fancy, but convening stakeholders, equipping them with resources and data and tools to address the most critical issues in our community. We define those as 3rd grade reading proficiency, mental health, civic engagement, and homelessness. And if we had an hour together, I could tell you how all of those are interconnected, but you probably see it play out in the families that you serve. Children who are not reading proficiently by the end of 3rd grade are 4 times more likely to not graduate from high school. So we can then look forward and think about the long-term implications of that for employment opportunities and health outcomes. And are they engaged in their community? Are they engaged in their children's lives when those children become students in our school system? So then you can kind of see that circular impact. So we try to address some root causes of disparate outcomes in terms of health, education, opportunity, workforce, and all of that in our community. What is a little bit different for the collaborative is that we don't do direct services, and sometimes that's hard to wrap your arms around. Like, we're not giving out the food boxes. We are not providing the workforce development training, but we're connecting the partners who are, so that we can say, okay, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years, this is the type of community that we want to be. These are the outcomes that we hope for our families, and how can we all work together out of our silos, all together in a bigger silo to make that happen. So I hope that answers the question.
That's great.
It's a little bit crazy.
So you're a connector of sorts.
We are. We're
Okay.
a connector and a convener, and we lead initiatives in those areas that I talked about.
Well, so a curiosity question. I'm very interested in mental health. Can you tell me a little more about that, of what that looks like? So what kind of connections can you make to help families with mental health?
Absolutely. Thank you, Lisa. And truly, mental health was an issue pre-pandemic, and unfortunately, what we as a community, indeed as a globe, have gone through over the last 19 to 20 months has only exacerbated that. So we lead an initiative called Mind Your Mind. Get it? It's our mental health initiative to raise awareness, reduce stigma, and promote resiliency. So I'll point out once again, we're not providing mental health services to families, but we have a multi-layered marketing campaign and awareness campaign to, again, elevate the issue, but also connect families to resources that are here in our community. And we get into issues of access and equity, whether it relates to insurance, something I'm sure you see in the firm a lot, but also transportation, if families are connected to a school or not, that sort of thing. So we host presentations, town halls, webinars, trainings, and film screenings, and provide information, both print and digital, to families, to faith communities, to other nonprofits, and to parents and caregivers about how they can be connected to mental health resources. Everything from the Georgia Crisis and Access Line, when your family is in a crisis mode, to that teenager that is feeling isolated because of the pandemic, or feeling depression and anxiety, an increased level about returning to school and all those things, and everything that I read, the latest report from the CDC or pediatric, the APA and things like that, are just really sadly focusing on the anxiety and depression of our young people. Here's an example. We were so pleased earlier this month in September to host a town hall with Cobb Commissioner Jerica Richardson. It was a hybrid event. We had an expert panel of educators and a couple of nonprofit leaders and someone from the Cobb County CSB to talk about mental health in our youth, what they're experiencing, what they're seeing, how to connect with resources. And that was preceded by a tabletop event. We had several parents of teens in particular stop by and get materials. And I remember this one mother who said, I'm here to get resources. I have a teenager at home who is in bad shape and needs help. And if we can step in and fill that gap, it's what I feel like we are meant to be doing in our community.
Well, I love what you said, because I think if I've heard it correctly, what you've shared with us today is that you can help families specifically, but you're also a resource for the community in general.
Yes.
So you're actually serving both.
Yeah.
How would a family connect with you? And kind of as a follow-up, how would someone in the community that's worried about mental health or reading or some of these things, these great things that you provide these connections for, how would they get in touch with you?
So the best thing, and it's sort of the way of our world right now, particularly in this hybrid moment, is to connect with us on the internet. What did just about all of us do when we are looking for something? We Google, how to find whatever. So I really invite people to go to our website, which is www.cobbcollaborative.org. You can sign up for our newsletters. We send out a couple of newsletters each month that are very general in nature, in terms of here's what's going on in the nonprofit community, here's some events that we are hosting. And then we have another newsletter that is a standalone Mind Your Mind mental health newsletter. And we will typically feature something that is going on. For instance, September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. So we had some reading and connection to other resources. We profiled a couple of the trainings, awareness prevention trainings that we were hosting. So I really encourage people to sign up for our newsletter. Follow us on social media. Social media can be used for, yes, there are some unattractive, unsavory things that happen because of social media. But it can also be used for good, right?
Absolutely.
It can connect people. And we use our social media platforms, and you'll see the icons at the top of our homepage, really to do those things that I've talked about: promote awareness, promote resiliency, and reduce stigma, specifically in the mental health space. We have a YouTube channel, and on that YouTube channel we have a person who is trained in mindful self-compassion, and she has a series of relatively short videos that you can walk through, that she'll walk you through in terms of how to maybe have that grounding moment when you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed, right? There are things that you can do. The touch, even the touch to yourself, like when you place your hand over your heart to still your body and get your anxiety back down. Planting your feet firmly on the ground so you feel grounded and connected to the earth. For anybody who practices yoga, you may pick up on some of those things, and we often in that fight, flight, or freeze moment, forget about those things, right? And so this little series of videos that we have in the mindful self-compassion space help to remind us of those, and then they're always handy. We also do a podcast called Mind Your Mind Speaks, where I interview people in the mental health and behavioral health space in our community, where we talk about resources, talk about things to look out for if you have a loved one who you might be worried or concerned about, and that sort of thing. And of course, you can just do the plain old pick up the phone and call. So, we don't often want to do that, do we? But our phone number is right there on the website, 678-766-5574. And that will ring directly to me. And if you have a question or want to participate in one of our trainings or workshops and you're not quite sure if that's the right fit for you, or you're concerned about your loved one, no matter what age, a coworker, someone in your Sunday school class or on your tennis team or anything like that, just call and be happy to chat with you. I am not a mental health professional, but I am a caring person who has lived in this community for 30 years. And really, I'm here, like everybody, to make our corner of the world a better place.
I love that, because I was going to ask about your passion, and you just said that.
Yeah.
You just answered that question. And I love the fact that there's some resources available, and I think we're in a time where people really have that need, especially for mental health.
Yes.
And I think what you said too is kind of alluding to see something, do something. So if there's somebody that's in need, they can reach out to you to share those resources, maybe with that friend or that colleague that's in need. So I think when we take it that step, we can all do something.
Yes.
And I love that message that you gave. I also love your passion, and I am so grateful that we have such great resources in the community. We at Nelson Elder Care Law really want to make sure that resources that are so important, like yours, the Cobb Collaborative, are well known, because there are people that need help and need resources, and we really want to help to get the word out that those things exist.
Yeah,
They're right at your
absolutely.
fingertips. You just have to decide to make the connection.
Absolutely.
So Irene, we talked a little bit about how we can help individuals, but I heard you mention that maybe there's some group training or group training resources may offer to folks in the community. Could you share a little more about that?
There absolutely is, Lisa. Thank you for asking that. We are part of a ecosystem called Resilient Georgia, which is supporting mental health hubs and trauma responsive hubs across our state. And so we are that entity here for Cobb County. So we offer a lot of what we call trauma-informed trainings, which is changing that conversation from what is wrong with you to what has happened to you. And we could literally talk for about an hour on the benefits of that, but it's all about improving outcomes for the clients as well as the care providers in those settings. So we offer things like Connections Matter, Trauma 101, suicide prevention training, Question, Persuade, Refer, otherwise known as QPR, to the community at large. And then sometimes we host trainings and workshops for specific cohorts of individuals. For instance, educators, and not only classroom teachers. Sometimes it's hard for them to step outside of the classroom, but school social workers, school psychologists, consulting nurses, and others that are connected with the school system. And then also we offer those opportunities to the partners who often come alongside our schools here in Cobb County, by offering maybe mentoring services or food distribution. It's important for them to not just be providing mentoring and or tutoring. I mean, that is so important, but perhaps to understand what might be going on in that child's or that student's home life and why that may lead to certain behaviors or interactions that the person might be thinking, well, why are you saying that? So some of these trainings that we offer really get into the brain architecture, what happens to the mind and body if a child is living in a toxic stress environment or a traumatic situation. We elevate the issue, we raise the issue, we bring in content experts to address it, to equip the entire community so that anyone who is coming in contact with that child or that family can be in the best spot that they can be to respond and to wrap them with all of the, whether it's services, love, attention, resources that they need.
I love what you said, because it sounds like to me that you're equipping professionals in the community with the courage and the confidence to ask the tough questions in a very meaningful and thoughtful way to provide those resources. And that's not always easy.
No, it's not, but you're right. And I love the way you phrased it. I'm going to steal that from you. If
Absolutely.
That's okay. You have to not be afraid to ask the questions. With our suicide awareness training, a lot of people think before they take a training like that, well, I could never mention suicide to that person because that might put the thought in their head. Oh, that person sadly has already thought about it. And so, for instance, QPR will help you put that question into context, into a larger conversation, so that you can really connect with that person and let them know that they matter to you, they matter in their community, and how you can support them until a more formal professional help can arrive. It's really about bridging that gap, which I think you mentioned. You know, we are providing services to not only professionals, but also family members and just anybody who comes in contact with children and families.
Great. Well, this has just been wonderful. Thank you so much, Irene.
Thank you, Lisa.
Take care.